Hello, everybody. It is your Uncle Fish back again for School Fish Art Stream. J-Man wants a Gatling gun on the end of his tail. Oh my goodness. J-Man says the tail's where you put all the heavy artillery. Damn. Said he used to have a howitzer on the end of his tail. Ooh, persistent logos getting all up in the Uncle Fish's face. Good morning, everybody. Glad to be back again for another amazing episode of School of Fish Art Stream. Tuesdays and Thursday mornings at 11 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. Thursday morning shows are for Patreons only. And for all my Patreon supporters to come in and hang out and chat and talk. And one of the nice things about supporting it on Patreon for as little as $3 a month is you get to really take part in the conversation, and I got time to really answer your questions. So if you really want to know something, I could really dive into that for you and help talk you through it. Like today, one of my Patreon supporters, Katie from Scotland, asked me last night about how to set up page borders and panels. And that's one of the things we're going to talk about today before we dive into this awesome pinup for the Danny J. Quick of Aceblade fame, which y'all know from the TikToks and whatnot, because he's a famous man and whatnot. Oh, look at that. Oh, Danny's in the house. What's up, man? Good to see you this morning. PJ in the house as always. Good morning, man. Glad to have you here. I'm gonna go ahead and turn on ye old chat overlay so we can see the comments come up on the screen when they hit there. Let me go ahead and turn on the old Clip Studio. Oh, look at that. We got the pinup that I was working on for Roy Johnson over at Standard Comics. Man, it came out awesome, dude. This pick of the Raven came out so cool. Man, I'm really proud of the way it came out. Got his little throwing several smoke bombs so you can see him like unexploded, just starting to spray smoke and then all that. And we even designed a really cool 3-bladed Raven shuriken for him to do. $3 a month is great. Thank you, man. I appreciate that. I think it's a pretty good deal, especially for the amount of attention that I can give to people on this and really talk about what they need to know. Like I really walked Kyron through select color gamut, how much that helps with having somebody do my color flats for me. And he hired the same lady that I use, which was smart of him. And I helped walk him through how to use select color gamut. He was just missing one little step, one simple little thing that I hadn't explained clearly enough before. And all of a sudden, man, his work just jumped tremendously. It makes it go so much faster. But I love walking people through this stuff and telling you the secrets that I know, because I want everybody else to get as good as I am, and I want us all to be putting out awesome books. So let's see. That's one thing that I was working on. Now, this right here, I was looking for a color scheme for that night image, and so I searched for some cool images of like nighttime city scenes, and then I took one and I used the mosaic tool to drop it down to just a handful of giant blocks of color, and that helped me pick colors that I wanted to use for that pinup, and it came out really cool. Gave me a really dynamic look, and it was a fairly limited palette, as you can see here. There's lots of blues and there's some purples, and that was pretty much about it. So it really helped me hone in on the color scheme that I was going to use. And it came out amazing. I use that trick sometimes when I get stuck on a color scheme, but I'm not going to say that because I don't need that. Now, this is one of the things we're going to be working on today, right here. This is an amazing sketch variant cover that we're doing for the Danny J. Quick. And it's got your boy Virgil taking on Aceblade. Virgil's, boy, he's taking a licking and keep on ticking, man. He's all sliced up and cut up, throwing knives all in him. Katana stabbed right up into his rib cage. But he ain't going to stop till he takes the vigilante in. We're going to see who wins on this. But, yeah. I got my money on Aceblade, actually, because he's a trained fighter. Virgil ain't. Virgil's just good at taking abuse. But we're going to work on that. But first, I really want to dive in to what Katie was asking about. I'm trying to vamp for a minute, give Katie a chance to come in if she's going to get a chance to come in today. Every once in a while, she's out saving the world, planting trees, or, all kinds of crazy stuff, man. She's out there making an impact. A lot more than just drawing funny books like your Uncle Fishy, but she's out there doing the work, man. Planting trees, helping the animals and whatnot, taking people back and forth to doctors, and she's like way out in Scotland. So, man, it takes time to get anywhere out there. Let's go, Virgil. Take the purple minister. Oh, man. All right, well, since she ain't here yet, until I hear from Katie, I'm going to go ahead and start working on the inks on this, because I've already done 2 layers of pencils on this, which is more than I normally do. But I had my first pencil sketch down, and it was pretty good. It was pretty close, but I knew I wanted to change the position of Virgil's head and stuff. So I really lowered down that opacity, and then I drew another version over it. And I like the way this one came out better. And I moved some stuff around, but in the end, I think this came out a whole lot stronger. So we are going to, again, drop that opacity down a bit so that it doesn't get in too much of the way of our inks. Then I'm going to come up here on top of everything. I'm going to make a new vector layer, and I'm going to color that layer black, because in my mind, I know that because that color is black right up there, that's my ink layers, and I don't have to dig around trying to find it. And color coding it works a whole lot better for you, Uncle Fishy, than putting tiny little labels on each one of those layers. That's hard for my old eyes to see. So we're going to do that way. And normally, this would be the point where I would flip the image and I would ink it backwards, because that helps me find little mistakes that I made when I drew it the first time. Like, we tend so often to have like one eye higher than the other, or one ear off, or the head's maybe a little wonky because of the angle we were drawing at. And we don't see it because there's that part of our brain that's designed to find faces in shapes and images. That's why we see faces in a plate of bacon and eggs, or on the front of a car or something. That's why we see faces everywhere, because our brain is designed to recognize them. So if things are a little bit off, we don't necessarily notice that first way. But if you mirror it, all of a sudden, for some reason, those mistakes really jump out. So usually when I'm done penciling something like this, I would flip the image right to left, and I would ink it backwards, because then all those little problems that I saw would jump out at me and I could fix it in the inks. And then when I flip it back to color it, if there's any other little mistakes, I can tweak them then. But in this case, because I did 2 sets of pencils already, I did my first pencil sketch, and then I flipped it when I did the second pencil sketch. So I've already corrected a lot of those little mistakes there. And then I flipped it back for this image. So honestly, right now, it is flipped from my last set of pencils. So for once in my life, I get to ink it the right way around, which is weird to me. But, that's how we're going to do today. Because, we roll with the punches up here in Fishy Land. We don't get hung up about it. That's what the wise man said. And now, like, any little things that might be a little bit wonky in the shape of Virgil's head, I can come in and correct now on this layer, because essentially this is reversed from the way I penciled it. And surely that doesn't make a lick of sense because I went all around the barnyard and trying to explain that. I've been realizing lately because I've done like a couple of sketch cards and stuff with Virgil recently, testing out some new materials and getting ready for Urban NerdCon coming up next weekend, where I'm actually going to get to hang out with Danny. Lord willing, and the creek don't rise, something don't happen. I'm really looking forward to it. And I've realized in doing all these sketches of Virgil lately, I got a little bit rusty on drawing, my boy. It's been a minute because I've been so busy working on Caw that I haven't done a lot of Virgil in a hot minute. Took me a second this time around to have to think through the geometry of his head again. Urban NerdCon is going to be fun, man. I'm really looking forward to it. I really am. I will admit, just because it's us here and it's Patreon only, and this is a safe space here at School of Fish where we can talk about our emotions. I'm a little bit emotional about it because last year at Urban NerdCon, I had such a blast hanging out with LaShawn. And it really stings that she's not going to be there. And I miss her. That was a real serious wake-up call for your Uncle Fishy right there, because, I mean, she was so young. And it doesn't matter how young you are or stuff, if we don't take good enough care of ourselves. We've seen too many of our friends in indie comics disappear. Too many pros disappear lately. And it's made me very conscious about trying to take better care of myself and trying to get back into better shape again, exercise more and stuff, and not just work 24/7, because I want to be around for the long haul to get to hang out with folks at cons and get to tell my stories. And so a little bittersweet. I'm excited about it, but also I miss the fact that we're not going to get to hang out anymore. Hang out at her, fun, cook out, all that stuff. Though this one isn't going to be in her hometown, so that makes it a little bit easier. But yeah, the last one was the first one. Only time we actually got to hang out in person. And I'm glad we had it. I'm glad my wife and I took the time to go. My wife absolutely loved LaShawn. And she is missed, that's for sure. Lord willing, if the creek don't rise, I'll see you there. Yeah, that is. That's one of my grandma's sayings that's always stuck with me. I'm tripping Mike out all the time with my country bumpkin sayings, but that's just the way I are. I'm still on a racer, crazy fishy. I wonder where Katie is. She's probably out either planting trees or feeding the wildlife or taking her mom to doctor or something important. More important than watching fishy draw pictures? Poppycock, says Danny J. Quick. He says nothing could beat this. And for the Danny J. Quicks of the world that may not be aware, this is schoolfish is where I can get kind of weird sometimes. Because, it's just us hanging out, having a good old time. You get to see Uncle Fishy and all his craziness. Which, makes for some awesome storytelling and stuff. Oh, I can be a weirdo. That's the way I fix it. Hey, Katie, son. Like she says, I was out trying to tame the garden, but it was fighting back. I'm glad you're here, Katie. We've been waiting on it because I was going to take a minute and talk about how to lay out panels and stuff. And let's go ahead and do it. Let's save this right now because we don't want to lose what we did. Don't want to be a foolish fishy and not save. All right, I'm gonna come over here and I'm gonna go to open. Comic books. And page 000. And for anybody in the world that wants to go to my Patreon, you can download this for free, this Clip Studio page, and it's laid out like this. It's laid out for Kablam print standards, and we really get into it here for a second. This outer line, layout line here, that's the trim line for Kablam. Now, if you want to do a bleed trim and you want the image to go all the way to the edge of the page, you want to go all the way to the edge of this page, and that'll give you like 1/8 of an inch on the ends that'll be trimmed off, but that way it'll be nice and slick and go all the way to the edges. But that's the trim line. That's relatively where it's going to cut, which is why we go past that line. Because sometimes it might cut a little bit outside, sometimes it might cut a little bit inside. So you want to go past that. The green line here that goes all the way around is the safe zone. So anything that's important, you want to make sure all your lettering and like your fists and things, if anything's breaking the panel border, you want to make sure it stays within that green line, because if it goes out, it's going to get cut off. Now, if you're talking like Cyclops' laser blast is going out of the panel and off the page, that's fine. Take it off the edge of the page. But if it's important, like he's holding up a wedding ring, you don't want that wedding ring going outside this green line or it could get chopped off. And then there's a line inside. I'll turn off the panel and I'll turn off the other part. And then there's a line inside here. That is the line where we set up all our panels and everything and keep it in there. And we know we can go a little bit outside of that and still be in the safe, and then everything else past that, is the danger zone. And then what I've also included in this is a layer here to the side that says panel layout, and you click on that, and it has the panel broken up based on this outline for panels staying within this line that's laid out. And you can break the panels in half, vertically and horizontally. You can break them into thirds with the purple lines, or you can break them into quarters if you want. And that really helps me when I'm laying up my panels to make sure that I'm keeping them nice and even. And if I want the bottom line on a panel on this side and the bottom line on a panel on this side to be the same, I can use these guidelines to match that up and make sure that it matches. And then above that, I've drawn a panel border with the rectangle frame tool over here. Just click on the frame border. I believe what it is on my version anyway. And then the rectangle frame tool. Now I'm going to go ahead. It also has my version that I put up for everybody to download. Also has a layer already set up in blue line so that you can do your pencils and stuff in there. And we'll get to that, but I'm going to go ahead and delete this, and I'm going to show Katie how to start it from scratch. Now you may or may not have, you don't have to use this panel layout if you don't want to, I like to use it because it helps me lay stuff out. So I'm going to go ahead and leave it for a second. But all you got to do is take your rectangle frame tool. And if you get anywhere close to that line on the Kablam page, it will draw it. It will match up. It will hit that outline and it will snap to the guideline and it will stay there. If you get anywhere near that. If you're starting on your own page, you can draw it wherever you want it. You can make it whatever size you want it to be, however you want to do it. But what I recommend is instead of making a whole bunch of those, because like if I make a panel for this and a panel for this, it's making a whole new set of folders for each one of those panels. And the neat thing about using these panels is I can come in here and draw whatever I want, and it doesn't matter if I'm going outside of the lines, it's going to mask it off and you're not going to see it. Whatever I draw inside this little folder is going to be masked off by that panel border. If you do a whole bunch of separate ones, you've got to go to a whole bunch of different folders and figure out which one's which. And now I can draw in this one as much as I want, and I can go back and forth and not go out, but I can't cross over into the other ones. Okay. That's not the way I would recommend doing it. So I'm going to click on this and I'm going to delete them because I'm going to show you the better way. Delete. And delete. Now, the better way to do it is to come over, get your panel, your rectangle frame tool, click and drag your frame to select the whole thing. Now, when it creates these, I don't know if you can see right over my head, like it creates a whole new folder for that. It has a layer for us to draw on, and then it has a frame background in it, which is just like a page color, which makes it white and opaque so you can't see what's behind it, which is great if you have like a full page spread bleed trim going to the outside and then you want like an inset panel and you want to block out that image and put something new in here. But for right now, I'm going to turn that off, and that lets me see all the way through this panel, and it lets me see my guidelines behind it. So now I can set up when I split my frames, I have guidelines to follow. Now I'm going to come down here to divide frame border. There used to be another tool. I might have deleted it because I never use it, but there was divide frame file, which every time you split the frame, it split the panels into separate files, which made it complicated again. You don't want that. You just want to split the border. And then I come down here to vertical gutter and horizontal gutter right here. I set mine both to 40, 45, something in there is fine. You can change it to whatever you want. You can make it as thick or as thin as you want. But now, wherever you click and drag a line, it will split that panel however you want it. Now, I can undo it. If I hold down Shift, it will make nice. I'm not holding down Shift. If I hold down Shift, it'll keep those lines nice and straight. And I can follow my panel borders if I want to, and split, this up into 4 horizontal panels if I want to. Nice and easy. Okay, take notes, man. And you can always go back and rewatch this video and stuff. You've got the link to come back and find it. And if you support my Patreon, then you can always go back to my Patreon and it'll be in the post. And you can come back and find it and watch it again. And you can split your panels up however you want like this. Another neat thing that you can do is, they are so cool. Let me tell you. Now, another thing, like you can make up and down ones if you want. Like if I click inside the box and then I click and drag holding Shift, I'll make a straight line that just goes inside that box. Now, it's a real pain if you want to try and match these up and get them even, and they're a little bit off, and that does not sit well with your Uncle Fishy's OCD. We can't do that. That's not, no. Nope. It doesn't work. So, what you need to do if you want to split the panels evenly and have them line up, you start outside in the purple area. And the purple area, when you're clicked on this, is just what's masked off. If you click on another layer, it disappears. But when you're working inside this layer of frames, everything purple is masked off, so you can draw out there, it just won't show because it's masked. But if we start outside in the purple area, like let's say we want to split all of these into 3 even panels side to side. We come over to this purple line that's, in thirds. We're going to hold down the shift key so that our line's straight. We're going to start outside in the purple, click, and drag through. Okay, we got a nice line in one, but if we go past the other, whoop, now it's even in the, oh, there we did it again. Oh, now we went all the way down through the whole thing because we started outside and get right on that line, hold down the shift key, and then whatever panels you drag through, you drag all the way through like that, it will split evenly all the way down. And then you have a nice, neat, clean layout. All those little edges line up all nice and neat and perfectly. And our OCD is just happy and doesn't make us feel like the world is going to come to an end. It's an amazing thing. Now, if you want to change them individually later, you absolutely can do that. If you go to your selection tool, you can come in here and you can move things around and change things. The one thing to keep in mind is, like, if I move the bottom of this thing, it's going to want to move all of them because this little tool over here is click, and that is snap to other frame borders, which means like when I move this one panel, it's going to make all the other panels want to stick together. And then it says keep gutters aligned horizontal and adjacent, all or none. I'm just going to go ahead and turn snap to other frame borders off. And then I'm going to click on this one frame. And now I can move. It still took it. Dang it. All right, let's see. Let's do it. Let's see what we get there. Okay, now I can move it around free because I turned that off. And I can move this one panel around if I want it to be out of sorts or whatever. I can rotate that one frame. Whatever you want to do to it. You can come in and individually move the nodes around if you want to. Like if this one is hurtling 3-dimensionally off into space, you could do whatever you want to do with that panel. All right, now I'm going to turn off my layout lines because I don't need those. And I'm going to come to this raster layer in here that I'm going to do my pencils on. And I'm going to turn it blue like I do everything, just because that's the way I work. I'm so used to working with blue pencil back in the day. And now the neat thing is, anything I work on in this panel, I could be drawing Virgil, da 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 da. Hey, how you doing, guys? Blah, blah, blah. I can draw whatever I want, and it's still masked off by those panels, but I can draw across all of these panels now if I want. And everything I do is masked off by those panels, but it is so much easier to have one layer of pencils for the whole page and one layer of inks for the whole page, maybe 2 or 3, depending on it, like if you do your background separate like I do. And like one layer of coloring, like all your color layers are in one nice, neat little folder in one place. Easy to get to, easy to change, not a separate folder for each single panel, which makes it impossible to go back and find something to try and fix it later on. All of your lettering is in one set of panels here, because all of the letters, even though they're in these separate panels, will all be in this same folder. All nice and easy, all in one place. This is the way you want to do it. You want to make one big panel and then split it up with I forget the name of the tool, so I'm going to click on it, so I'm not telling you the wrong thing, with the divide frame border tool. And works like a charm. So much cool stuff, Fish. It's going to save me so much time with all the stuff I'm learning from you. Absolutely. That's why I want to share this with you, because it's such a great time saving tool. One more thing I want to point out real quick before we go back to doing Virgil. Let me delete that. We're going to make another frame. We're going to go to rectangle frame tool. We're going to click and drag. We've got a nice cool panel. Now, when you go to your divide frame border tool, right here, it's got shape of division. And normally we're dividing by a straight line because most of the time we're doing nice orderly straight panels. But you can do divide by polyline. And I like to do this when we start getting into fight scenes. And then every time you click and drag, you will be adding another point to that, and then double click and it finishes. And now I can do another one here, double click, and it's done. And boom, you can make your panels go whichever wonky way you want them to go with that tool. And that can be a lot of fun in action scenes to make some really wild panel borders and stuff that really give you a chance to show some really cool dramatic stuff and kind of cut out some of the dead space. That can be a lot of fun. Or like if time is being shattered or whatever. And if you come in to select on the objects and you have all that other stuff, you have the snap to other frame borders turned off and you keep your gutters aligned to none, then you can come in if you want to and grab like one panel and move it out of place and grab this one and we gotta go up to the little needle. Rotate it a scooch, and then we'll grab this one and maybe we'll shrink it a little bit and we'll move it over here. And so you can move them even more out of place. But where's my pencil? Here we go. When you come over here to this layer, you're still able to draw between them all. You're able to color through it all that stuff. And when you're using vector layers, it recognizes the outside of the panel borders as a vector line. So like if I'm inking and I want to ink some of my lines down past this on my vector line, I can come back with my eraser tool and click on it, and it reads those panel borders as other vector lines, so it will erase up to that and stop if you want. So I can draw past it to get a comfortable line and then erase to it. It's so freaking. Every once in a while when I'm coloring, it will have trouble recognizing the panel borders. So if I'm having that problem when I'm coloring, I will select like my ink layer and then I'll also select the panel borders and I'll make them both references. And then when I go to plunk in colors, it will guaranteed read those panel lines, and so it won't fill the whole page because it didn't read the panel, was there to stop it. Every once in a while that happens, so that's a little added benefit. But you can, there's so many cool options. Now, I don't very often use this divide by spline line one, but I mean, just like it says, it's a curved line. If you want curved panel borders for some reason, that's your way to get it. And you can always come in later and you could adjust some of those nodes. Now, it put a whole bunch of nodes in there, but you can go in and adjust them if you want to. A lot of times I will delete a whole lot of those nodes, so there's just the fewest I need to make that curve right and cut out all the extras, and then it's a whole lot easier. But there you go. And like I said, this page is open for everybody to download on my Patreon page for free. You can download it and start right from there and know that it's set up right for Kablam's print. That's not set up for everybody's printing, and everybody prints every comic book printer wants it a little bit differently, but for Kablam, this one works great. And I'll probably go ahead and download some for Other ones do not save because I don't want to save that garbage over my good file. And that's one more tip with that page for Kablam. When I'm going to make a new page, I open that 000 page and then I automatically save it as page 014 for this book for Danny J. Quick. I save it in that folder under that number page so that I don't accidentally save over my clean 000 page. And that way I always have a clean page to start from that has the same setup. And that's what you want to do. So we've done that. We've done our helpful tips of the day. And now we're going to get back into drawing some monster on vigilante awesomeness. As I've been talking with Danny for a while about doing a variant cover, and Mr. Early Bird himself, Mr. got up earlier than the Uncle Fishy, which is saying something. No wonder he'd be out there getting all the worms, because he's the early bird. He hit me up at 4 something this morning with the idea, hey, if we hurry up and get this done, we might could have this printed in time for Urban NerdCon. And that's all I needed to hear. You had me at if. I remember the first time I had to draw this stuff on a picture of like we were doing a still life, and the art teacher had brought in an old rotary phone, which wasn't that old at the time. Like she had just brought in her home phone, and we had to draw this cable, and I was so mad that we had to draw it, and it takes so long, so complicated. Urgh. Now I love drawing these kind of details. It's funny how that changes. It made me so mad when she brought that in. To draw that's going to be so hard. And now, because your Uncle Fishy learned a long time ago to always steer into the skid, if I don't like something, you better guarantee I'm fixing to do a lot of it. Because I'm not going to let anything stop me from being the best I can be. And secretly, I think that might have been even part of the reason that I made sure to put those coiled cables on their costumes when I was designing the characters, just to make sure I drew it a lot and make it challenging, because I don't like anything stopping me. I didn't like drawing cars, so I started drawing a lot of cars. I didn't like drawing wings, and so I started drawing a whole lot of wings. And now I just released a comic book with a character that's got wings, because I don't like letting things like that get in my way. I'm not going to let anything stop me, particularly not this fat man. It's a good mindset to have. That's why I'm making myself do a lot of anatomy studies, because I find human drawings hard. Excuse me. Absolutely. Absolutely. Always steer into the skid. Yep. Worst case, you get better at drawing something that you didn't like to draw. That ain't a bad thing. That ain't a bad thing at all. Another thing that I'm kind of glad of, I'm glad I had such a weird childhood. Because my dad's generation and stuff, he grew up playing cowboys and Indians and whatnot, and they could pretty much do whatever they wanted to do. Like he built his own crossbows and compound bows and stuff, or no, recurve bows, not compound. When he was a kid, and you know, had his own 22 when he was 9 or 10. Uh, so because he grew up that way, and because he was, probably also undiagnosed autistic when he was a kid, so he was a little bit weird, and was used to, had no problem with having obsessive interest in things. He, like when we were kids, we watched Indiana Jones, thought that was cool. He bought us a bullwhip, a really nice bullwhip, not the cheap get at the fair bullwhip, like a expensive bullwhip, and taught us how to use it. But my brother wanted to start, throwing shuriken and stuff because, watching Bruce Lee movies and stuff. Sure, my dad was all into throwing knives and axes and stuff, so he built us a throwing board in the backyard that we could throw them at, and let us try all kinds of cool stuff. Okay, he says my arm's throbbing. I got hit by a really big stinging nettle when I was pulling it out just before the show started. Damn nature fighting back when I'm trying to tidy the garden. That looks like it would hurt, Danny says. Absolutely. But because, like, we got to do all this kind of stuff growing up, like, I have a much better understanding of, like, how throwing stars work and what makes for a good throwing knife and stuff. So I can apply that stuff when I'm drawing. And sometimes I see other people draw stuff and I'm like, you've never really thrown one of those before, have you? Which, isn't uncommon. There's nothing weird about, not having thrown dangerous weapons as a child. It's just, one of the unique things about growing up in a neurodivergent household. It was like, yeah, sure, let's figure it out. And, growing up in the time that I grew up in, you could just go get throwing stars at the corner store until they outlawed. Ooh, somebody threw it at somebody's head. Go figure. Gave it to kids. I know the muscle textures aren't going the right way, and that bothers me a little bit, but I think overall it's going to read quickly as muscle, whereas if I try and draw the ends of all those fibers sticking out, I don't think it would read as quickly to the average eye as I thought about this when I was sketching it out earlier, and finally decided that I figured that texture would read better to your average layperson as being muscle than drawing it the other way. So that's why I did it. Does Virgil have any special abilities? Oh boy. He absolutely does. His number one adaptation is when he gets really, really scared, his blood pressure rises, and he sprays blood out of his eyes. Much like a horned lizard or horny toad when I was a kid does. Now, in my defense, I never terrorized a horny toad long enough to make it shoot blood out of its eyes, but it's just something that, a lot of people think is an old wives' tale, but they actually do it. But that is one of his adaptations. His real power, the real thing that makes him a genome, is going to be revealed later. You're going to get a hint at it in book 4, which should be coming out soon. And I'm thinking on book 4, I'm probably just going to go ahead and put out the trade with book 4 and some other stuff included. Like, my son is an extremely talented artist in his own right, and he's working on a short story to help flesh out some of the world of Green Zone so that you can see some of the other stuff that's going on besides just these cops. And because it's a much bigger world, and this story is rightly so far been focused on this small group of people, but I wanted to give some hints at the rest of the world. So he's working on a short story that's really cool and I'm really proud of. And he's doing an amazing job on it. And it should be in the trade as well coming soon. Hopefully it's going to be out by the end of the year. And in that, not in that short story, but in that book, you're going to get a hint, you're going to get a glimpse of what Virgil's real powers do, what his real mutation does. It might not be super obvious at first, but when you find out the details later on, it's going to make you cry. That's all I can say. I made Lori cry when I told it to her. So get ready. Are you being mean to Virgil again? I'm not being mean to him. Aceblade's being mean to him. Aceblade's cutting him to the bone with them big old razor blades of his. Mean old Aceblade. It's vigilante for you. Slice a cop to the bone, not think twice about it. That's what they say on the street. Emotional damage. Indeed. Emotional damage. That's good. While I fully know and admit this probably doesn't line up 100% with my previous drawings of Aceblade, I also kind of know that Danny has been letting artists go wild with their interpretations of Aceblade. It looks a little bit different. So I'm having fun making a cool image. If I go too far, I'm trusting Danny to rein me back in. Yo, bro, chill out with that. But I love good seams and stuff in a costume. I enjoy that. So I'm putting it in. Oh man, this is sweet. All right, let's see. It's hard to pick where I want to go next. And if y'all see anything else that I do on my show, like any custom made brushes or anything that I use or something that you'd like to check out, let me know and I'll stick them up. If they're mine and I created them, I'll stick them up on my Patreon. See if you like it. And because I'm all about sharing. And I really want to make my show as helpful as it can be to other comic creators. So I'm all about sharing everything that I learn, everything that makes my life easier, and like learning to set my pages up to the layout for the printer beforehand has saved me so much hassle on some of these jobs, because I've worked on jobs before I was doing comics full time, where somebody had, asked for XYZ, and then it turns out that's not what the printer needed at all. And sometimes it's an easy fix, Sometimes it's not. Sometimes that was a scrap it and start over from scratch, and the client doesn't understand why that should cost more money. You already did the artwork. Yeah, but what you don't understand is now I got to go back and redo it all because you asked for it in the wrong format and the wrong size and the wrong resolution. And what I spent all that time making for you isn't going to work for what you want because you didn't want to bother finding a printer beforehand. You're like, oh, we'll figure that out when we get to it. No, you kind of need to know that going in because I need to know how they want it laid out. And I've had some people like not hire me for comics because I'm like, you're going to need to figure out who you want to use to print it so that I can set your page up right. Because I'm not charging a price that incorporates me going back and resizing all these files because you don't know how to do that. Or outputting them at a different resolution because you don't know how to do that stuff yourself. Like, I'm not charging for that. And you don't want to pay the price I'm going to have to charge to go back and make unlimited changes because you didn't want to bother to figure out who you were going to use to print it to start with. You know, and I'm not being mean. I'm trying to save us all time and money. But, you know, for whatever reason, the fear of it becoming real if they pick a printer or whatever, some people are just like, nah, I'm good. I'll find somebody else that'll do it without needing that. Okay, go ahead. But I hope you find somebody else that's going to reformat all those pages for you afterwards too. Because if you don't understand why it's a big deal, I'm willing to bet you don't know how to fix the files yourself. Because if you had more experience in graphics and in printing, you understand that's kind of important stuff. If we can set it up right going in, everybody's happier in the long run. And ultimately, that's what I want is happy clients. Everything to run smoothly. I want you to be ecstatic with your final product. Cut off problems before they become. Some people have to learn by making the mistakes. Absolutely. I really want to draw Virgil at some point when I'm not super busy. Yeah. It looks cool is my only requirement for artists to draw Aceblade. Is this free again? Well, no, it's not free, but if you go looking in the right places, you can find it. It's unlisted, is what it is. BJ's talking about one of these days helping me set up my own webpage and stuff where I could just move over there into the Patreon and just share it to that page and whatnot instead of the way I have to do it for Patreon. Glad you're here, sir. I miss my Sarah when she's not here. Working on a cool variant cover for the Danny Jiggly of Virgil trying to arrest the Vegas vigilante. And so far, things haven't been going in Virgil's favor. Virgil don't catch a lot of breaks. I'll be signing up as soon as I'm sure I can swing it. But I'm too paranoid right now to do that. I've had to buy so many things lately. I've had to order so many things, especially with this show coming up. And and some of them are necessities, things that I've got to have. Like I needed some new pants for the show because all my clothes are pretty worn because, I tend to wear things until they're threadbare and, look nice. So I had to buy some new pants for the show. And I know it's a secret to most of y'all, but your Uncle Fish is a tad overweight. So I had to get me some old diabetic socks. They're not cheap, but man, they sure do help with the swelling. I'm actually really looking forward to this show in Atlanta because usually by the time I get done at a con, my feet are swollen so big I can't hardly drive home, which is one of the reasons that my wife's going with me. I'm really looking forward to trying them out at this show because I've been using them while I'm working during the day. And man, they have been nice. They look ridiculous, but my feet aren't swollen. And I love that. If I could get through a con without my feet being the size of footballs, then that would make it a whole lot easier. That would make cons a whole lot easier on me and a whole lot less recovery time afterwards. I'm looking forward to that. But, another thing I had to order, and I ordered sketch card trading cards. So, like on one side, it's got printed trading cards of some of my characters. Like I got Paw and Virgil and Danny Kim and Bellamy. And I got sketch cards of them made up, trading cards on one side, and then the back's blank so that I can draw on it. And I was listening to somebody talk about their setup for cons, and they were like, you should always have some expensive stuff there for the people that, want to spend big money, the people that might want to buy the original art and stuff like that. But then you should always have some cheap things like stickers and whatnot to hit those people that, might want to buy something but don't have a lot of money, or the kids, that mom gave them $5 or whatever. And you should have something so that you don't miss those opportunities too. And I was like, you know what? That's not bad thinking. So, and I had been thinking about doing sketch cards anyway, and that was just all the incentive I needed to go ahead and draw up the designs and get them ordered. So I've got those coming. I can't give away everything I've been working on recently, but man, I have been drawing a lot of bloody people lately. I can say that much. Aceblade resisting arrest is going to be a common theme in the comics. Cheap stuff always makes the money. I make most of my money at art shows with greeting cards. Exactly. And as of yet, I much money with my stickers, but also my stickers are of characters that people don't know. So there is that. But I've got them there, and I wanted to put some sketch cards out, and also like I'm kind of done. Like I was talking with Marcus Williams at the last Urban Nerd Con. We were on a panel together, and he was really talking about how business cards are a thing of the past. Nobody's really paying attention to them. The number of times that he's found his, thrown on the floor 20 feet away from his booth after somebody asked for it, but they really just like wanted to be nice and wanted an excuse to walk away. And, it's not worth it. He's like, putting out something with a QR code so people can scan it and they can follow you right now if they really want to, was that was the trick. That was the thing to do. And so I've started working on that and making those available. And so I went ahead on these trading cards, and because once I stopped having business cards at my table, of course, there's some people like, "Oh, well, don't you have a business card? My phone don't know how to do that." And so I was like, so the dang it, okay, keep selecting the wrong tool. Um, So on the back of the card, it's got a little trading card of the character, and then down at the bottom, it has a little new little logo of me that I designed for Mr. Fish Comics. And it says, if you want to know more or follow me, you can follow me at MrFishComics.com. So if they're a Luddite and they don't know how to use the technologies, they can type that in and go follow it. But nobody's going to type in the complicated, URL for my TikTok, or nobody's going to do that. So there's a QR code at the side that has my link tree on it, and you can click on that and sign up for my newsletter. You can follow me wherever. You can sign up for my Patreon, whatever you want to do from there. And so if somebody just wants my business card, I can give them a cool little trading card that has some of my art and might entice them to want to check out one of my books later, and have links to where to get to everything. And if they want to pay a couple more dollars, I can put a little old sketch on there for them. Just a little old sketch, just a little old something, keep them interested. You know, not a go all out Danny J. Quick variant cover, but a little old sketch. Keep little old Mrs. happy, little quiet little old chitlins, hey, I got you something. Quit crying that you're not getting the Kevin Sorbo sign card or whatever. Here's this. Shut up. Take it. If you ever appreciate anything I get for it, whatever it is you do with your kids, however you raise them, it's your prerogative. Oops. Got to switch off the old eraser tool. Fool. It's a fool, oh dude. Bloody, bloody, bloody. Leave me alone. I'm not a bad guy, says the blood-covered vigilante. Don't get that wrong, says the man that just sliced open this. Armor upgrades. Yeah. Knows he's going to be coming up against somebody of Virgil's scale. It makes sense to think it through. Bet you he's heard tales of a certain fictional hero that could beat dang near anybody with enough prep time. So only serves to reckon he'd start putting in a little prep time himself, think through what he's going to do. Can't always just be a costume you found in your girlfriend's closet. Sometimes it needs to be custom gear. Taking on your lizard man and your whatnots. Only makes sense. It's only prudent. That's what Dan J. Quick said. I've learned not to argue with Danny J. Quick. He'll send a quick off you. I'll cancel your ass quickly quick. Old Kyron knows. That's why Kyron ain't in the comments today. He's old Danny. Afraid Danny's going to sick Quick Nation on him. You wonder why you never hear about old Netflix Quick no more. Quick Nation went after him and said they were stealing from Danny. You're a thief, they said. Can't steal a man's name for chocolate powder. They relented because they was afraid of the Quick, as they well should be. I wish my wife would learn not to argue. You set the Quick Nation on her one time. It'll be the end of that. One way or another. She won't be fussing with you no more. She may be packing her shit and getting gone, but she won't be arguing with you. Straight scared for a few minutes. He was just playing. We was just playing. Man. Quick Nation plays too rough. That's what Kyron's. Think of it, I don't think I've seen Kyron step outside since. Bet you the poor boy's been a shut-in ever since that day. Because I have not personally seen him step foot outside since. Of course, in a gated community like that, it's hard to see. I'm trying to peek over the fence, but I can only see some. It's a right pretty sword handle, Mr. Fisher. We should drink like that. I'll tell you what, Danny. I've been real impressed to see all the videos you've been doing about the packing comics and stuff. Has it been paying off for you? Because I know every time I made a post about packing books or shipping books, it always led to another sale for me. I'm trying to share that little tidbit with everybody that I can, because man, it paid off well. And once I get my new little online shop set up soon, which I'm hoping to set up before the show, before the con, but we'll see if I can get everything done. Um, I'm gonna start, man. I'm gonna start posting every sale I make on there online. I still can't believe you haven't gotten Nevada yet. That drives me nuts. Yeah, I think people like seeing the behind the scenes, especially shipping. Oh yeah, man, absolutely. And seeing that somebody else bought it kicks in all that, fear of missing out stuff. Kicks in all the, oh man, he's really selling that. He's not just talking. It's just, say just some cat out there on the internet talking stuff about how he wants to be doing something someday. He's actually selling. And then, especially when you get a whole bunch of orders and you got those boxes laid all out around the room showing it, that's showing everybody out there that you're really killing it. Even if, that's 2 weeks of orders or whatever, that looks really good on camera. It makes you look like a big time baller. And that's only going to help with sales and stuff. I just wish I had Danny's cleverness for thinking up bits for stuff like that. Like, I'm real good at coming up with story ideas and creating worlds and whatnot, but man, there's so many things I wish I was better at. Like, it just amazes me when somebody like plans a party and can come up with like a theme and all this stuff that's cohesive and makes it all cool and people are all excited to dress up or whatever. Like, my brain doesn't think that way. A friend of mine's real creative, and when he met me, he stopped drawing and stuff for a long time because it's the same thing I hear a lot. Like, oh man, well, fish is so good, why should I even bother? And I hate that. But finally, he got back to drawing and stuff. But he's creative. Him and his wife are creative in ways that I just can't wrap my brain around. Like, one time they were wanting me to like make a robot for children's church or something, and they were like, yeah, just make a cool robot. And so I'm thinking like, okay, well, I'm gonna make it armature and I'm gonna pack it or foam around it. I'm gonna carve it out to look like exactly this massive robot that I envisioned in my head, and it's gonna be like kind of transformer-ish. And he was like, oh no, see, I thought you'd take like a big trash can and put it on top of some little trash cans upside down and put some tennis rackets on it and just like make a robot real quick out of junk. I can't think that way. Like, I have a really hard time taking things and like, okay, well, let's make something out of this trash other than I've created an idea in my head and I know how to make that from scratch. I tend to think more that way because like I've been a carpenter and a sign maker and all these other things, and I'm just used to, okay, this is my idea, let's make it. And they're so creative in thinking of ways to reuse things that they've just got on hand around them. And it blows my mind because my imagination just doesn't work that way. I suck at marketing stuff. I wish it came natural to me to sell things. Oh yeah, it's tough. You call it clever, I call it desperation. I hate it so much when my ability puts other artists off. It's upsetting that people get disheartened by their insecurity. It really is. Because, like, me, I don't want to do anything but encourage other people. Like, that's all I'm about. Is, helping people get there, and I want to do whatever I can to help you figure it out. And, like, that's just who I am. And the thought that repeatedly just being around me has stopped other people from creating makes me mad, but also like a little bit the older I get and the more I've done this, like especially the more I've done comics as my full-time job now, the more, especially when it comes to this job, like not just creative in general, like, like my buddy, he was creating stuff for himself and his kids and his enjoyment. And, he wasn't trying to make a living off of it. And it makes me sad that he quit doing that for a while. And it took a lot of encouragement for a long time to get him back to doing it again. And that I'm glad he's doing it now. I'm sad he didn't. But when it comes to doing this job, if you've been working at this for a long time and then you see my work and you're like, well, screw it, I give up. Then the older I get and the longer I do this, the more I'm like, yeah, that might be the best thing. Because if just seeing my work is enough to make you want to stop, then actually trying to do this for a living is going to crush you, because this is tough work. And, it's emotionally hard. It's tiring. It's draining. Like, even when I've only been drawing all day, I've just been sitting in my recliner all day long, drawing pictures of characters that I love that I probably would have been drawing anyway if I wasn't getting paid for it. I am so mentally exhausted and worn out at the end of the day in a way that I cannot describe to anybody that hasn't done it. It just, my brain is so racked at the end of the day from creating worlds out of nothing and creating backdrops and background characters and posing people and going through all the different emotions that everybody's feeling on the page. I'm so exhausted at the end of that. Like, it's mind numbing. Yeah, I would hope anything I'm good at would inspire people to do it more than quit. I feel you on that. Look, Katie says, I've had it happen in my own art lessons when I've been teaching. I get so many people go, oh, I'll never be as good as you, without realizing it took me 20 years to get to this stage. Absolutely. The subtle differences in line weights on that blade handles. Yeah. I'm telling you, those are the fun things for me. Like, and I used to hate inking, but now, like, it's come to be my favorite part. And those little things, like, putting a little bit thicker weight on that makes that a thicker puddle. I just, it's the stuff I love now. And I love getting the most out of the least amount of lines and keeping it as clean as I can. How do you keep all that together in your brain while you're drawing? I'm telling you, man. And part of it is absolutely just repetition. Part of it is that I've been doing it for so long now that it just comes naturally, and some of it is just repetitive at this point. It's not even, I'm not having to think about, how do I draw a generic face? How do I draw a generic hand? I just draw it because I've done it so many times. Like your signature. We don't usually think a whole lot about that because we've done it a billion times. It's just not something that we're like, okay, let's see. It starts with an F, and how do you make an S again? We don't think about it. And sign the big fat checks, because we're all rich comic book artists. We're all rich American comic book artists. That's what all the kids from Nigeria that keep friending me say. And surely they wouldn't lie to me. It's important Nigerian folks. They're always asking me, hey, you rich American? You can give me a job in the comic books, correct? And buy me a new laptop? No, I cannot. But thank you for asking. Appreciate it. If I could buy you a new laptop, I'd probably buy you a new laptop. A whole lot of equipment upgrades I'd like to have. Yeah, no. Thank you for asking. There we go, son. That's what I'm talking about. Get it. In the grandeur of it. Gotta get on color. Been on here for almost an hour. Well, you know what? My new butt cushion that I had to get for the con so that I could try and sit in those chairs longer without being in visible agony has made it a little bit easier to sit here. So I'm gonna go ahead and do a little color. Do a little flattening anyway. So we call it in the biz. Call it flat. I just flattened the whole damn page black. You know, can't see nothing that way. Come on, there we go. That's good. So, here's the world. Big fan of you. I respect you. Oh, now, what I have started taking to doing, because is I have started when I'm flattening for myself, which I don't do very often. I have started making a separate layer of flats that has each character, especially if there's a bunch of characters on a page, that is each character outlined, like filled in one solid color. So when I want to select that whole character, I can very easily. And so I'm going to do that first, and then that'll make it a lot easier to just select and mask out that character, and then I can go put in the different colors. Let's see. Colors already? You better believe it, man. He says they were fighting in the dark. Made it even more dramatic. He says I'm a coward for adding colors. She said if I was a brave artist, it'd be all black. Do it in black on black tones. And have the images described in Braille. That's what a brave artist would do, Katie said. So that's why I'm a coward, Katie. People see me. Katie always starts talking the craziest stuff when it gets past the hour and a half mark. She does. Some say she gets delirious. Some say I should keep my show to an hour. Those folks, I say poppycock. That's my point. I would cry too if it happened to you. But yeah, the older I get and the more I've worked in this as a business now and not just a passion, the more I've started to get a little more, I hate to say brutal, but a little more truthful in some of my advice to young artists and encouraging people that, you know, you can leave art as something that you just do because you love it, and that's perfectly fine. You don't have to turn it into a side hustle. It doesn't have to be something you make money on, because it absolutely does sometimes take some of the fun away, and not everybody has it in them to turn their passion into their full-time job, and you don't have to. Like, you can do something just because you love it, and you know, you can paint just because you love painting and not have to try and turn it into a business and try and get into the magazines, as a famous wildlife artist. Like, you don't have to do that. Nobody's making you do it. For some of us, that passion and that drive to keep improving, you know, our craft and get better at what we do. And, we were going to be doing this one way or another. Might as well make some money while we're in the process. Might as well take on some commissions and get paid for what we would be doing for free anyway. And we can do that and enjoy it and still love the thing that we love. Not everybody can do that, and that's okay. You don't have to turn it into a side hustle if you don't want to, because this is a hard job. This is a harder job as an artist to make money than just about any other job I've ever done. And it ain't playing around. It is hard work. And you're not ready for that. That's okay. Nobody said you had to do it. It's perfectly fine to just let it be something that you do for fun that you love. And even if you just want to put out a book for fun, that's totally cool. You ain't got to be the next Marvel if you don't want to, or if you don't have the skill set or whatever, if you don't have the passion, if you don't have the storytelling shop, like, it's okay. But for some of us, Dan J. Quicks of the world and whatnot, like, we it's in us, and we're going to be doing it one way or another, so we might as well do it, make some money while we're in the process. And the constant hustle and grind is worth it for us, and that's cool. But I try and give people the heads up, because it's not easy, and you're not going to just do a couple of comics and get famous and be, they're more worried about how they're going to be running their lines for their autographs at Comic Cons than they are about, learning how to be storytellers and whatnot, and learning how to take advice and take critiques and all that stuff, because that's not always fun stuff. I know it was a bit of a challenge for me in the beginning, when I started working in the graphics field in general, to get used to the fact that people were gonna need revisions, and I was gonna give them something that I thought was amazing, and they were gonna come back with changes that I don't think are amazing, but they're the one paying for it, so they're the one that's gonna get what they want. And it doesn't matter if I think it's better this way, because that's not what the client wants. I just live in a state of perpetual delirium, Katie says. Are you dropping colors in on a reference layer? I have my inks set as a reference layer, so I can come in with my paint bucket tool and have it set to refer to multiple pages over here, and have it set to the reference layer. So my inks are the reference layer right now, so I can plunk in a color on a separate layer, and it will go up to that line and stop. I need to set my area scaling down here. And then I can just click on this and just plunk in colors. The only problem with it is sometimes it doesn't fill in little bits, and sometimes it leaves little gaps. But I'm going to address that here in a second, because I come back in with my lasso fill tool, and I can grab all those little bits that didn't get grabbed before. And now what I'm going to do, now that I've got almost all of him filled in, big sections, and I'm going to go ahead and fill these in purple too, because they need some color. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to select color gamut. I'm going to select the selected layer, which is the color flats that I'm creating right now. It's that layer. And then I'm going to click on this gray in the background. All right, now it's selected all of that gray. And we'll grab my lasso fill tool. I'm going to select this purple, And anywhere that I see these selections inside his body, I'm going to draw over them and fill them in with his purple. And it seemed to have got him pretty good. There's a couple spots up here in his glasses, a couple of spots down here in his legs, because I want to get all of that filled in with something other than the background color. I want him to be solid. I'm going to do the same thing with Virgil. I'm going to grab this beige and I'm going to fill in every spot in him that I see the little ant outline around. Some in here, some in there. I'm going to fill all of that in. And now I'm going to do it again. Select color gamut, select that gray. And now it should be all outside. And yeah, now they're all nice and neatly separated. Oh, there's a little spot right there I missed in his claws. Make that beige. All right, that's pretty good. Now I should have nice, clean purple, beige, red, and gray to work off of. And turn it back on. And now I'm going to make another set above that. I'm going to turn that on as a reference layer. Now this layer is my reference layer that I'll be working from. I'm going to make a new layer above it, and I'm going to start flattening Virgil out in a little more detail. This color set on this computer doesn't have all my custom Virgil colors. That's okay. I can get close. So now I'm going to select color gamut, have it set to my reference layer, which is now that layer of these giant flats that I made. Select on Virgil, and now just he's selected, so I can only color inside of him, so I can't mess anything else up. And so now I'm going to make a Virgil brownish gray, and I'm probably just going to come in and use my lasso fill tool. And boom, draw that in like that. Got out of the lines in a couple of spots, so I'm going to go back and fix that, because I want to be able to go back and select areas later and not have to worry about. I want to be able to select the beige of Virgil later and cut out these sections. Not have to make the same selections over and over again. I'm tracing this line once to do the outline of these claws. I don't want to have to trace it again later to do his bulletproof vest. The least amount of times that I have to go over these lines is more money I'm saving myself in the long run. And that is always a good thing. So by selecting that whole area of Virgil, I don't have to worry about any of those outer outlines. I'm not having to follow around all this stuff. I can just make a big loop and be done. All I have to worry about is these inner lines, because the outer one's already masked off for me. So that is saving me time. And I'm going to do the same thing here in a minute with the beige parts of Virgil, so that I don't have to waste time redrawing that stuff. Now let's see. I need to pick a color. I'm going to pick a pink. Come in here. I could use the paint bucket tool, but it's just going to be easier for me to come in and just draw this right quick, because I can do that fast. And I would have to come back in with that tool for any spots that the paint bucket tool missed anyway. So sometimes it's just easier to go ahead and use it first. And the real key is just to make sure that anti-aliasing is off on my lasso fill tool so that it's not blending those edges. Because that's great if you're doing a painting, but you don't want blended edges when you're doing flats. You want a hard, jagged line that is clearly one color or the other. Like, let me turn this up. Like, we want this jagged line. If I had anti-alias turned on, it'll smooth that out. But now there could be 3 or 4 different colors in the transition from his skin color to that pink. And when I go to select that pink, it won't select those midtones. And when I go to select his skin, it won't select those midtones. So all of those will get left. You don't want that. This is going to all get covered up by the line art anyway, so if the line's jagged, it doesn't matter. There's going to be a black outline. So we want to be able to cut in nice, straight, jagged lines like that with no anti-alias. It's a big key to doing your flat layers. And making sure that you're always picking the exact same colors, and like picking, when I color pick, I'm deep inside that color. I'm not picking close to the edge, so I end up getting like a gray or something, or a blackened version of that color. And then I'm the color again. And I'm just gonna select this whole head. So, I'm gonna come over here and get this arm, and because the whole of Virgil is selected, I can just make a big loop out there and don't have to worry about going around any of those details, and just get the big part. And now I can come back in with my brown, and I can get his claws and his spikes, separate them from that shape. And then I can come back in with my bright pink, which is the same bright pink off of my palette, so I know it matches. And I'm drawing all these slices taken out of your boy Virgil here. And I'm missing the line in some places, but that's okay, because I can always come back in with the Virgil skin color and clean those up. So I personally try not to beat myself up too much if I get out of the line, because I know for me, if I start stressing out over trying to stay in the line too hard, that will make my hands start shaking even more and make the mistakes even worse. So if I start to feel my hands starting to shake as I'm trying to fight to stay within the lines, I'll just chill out and let it go. And it comes out much better. Now I'm going to come in. Now this has some big enough areas in it. It probably would have been faster for me to go ahead and use the paint bucket tool, but I've already got this tool selected, so I chose to stick with it and save that time of switching out tools. It may or may not have saved me a second. It may not. We'll see. There we go. That's not too bad. That gets that separated out pretty quick. That's done. Oh, and we got his feet. Now I got to select this color up here with the color picker again, because I made that color. I didn't pick it off of my color palette because I don't have my Virgil skin color saved on this palette on this computer. I need to export my palette from my tablet and bring it over here so I can do that, because that would save me even more time. I've got custom colors made for everybody in Green Zone, and it saves me a whole lot of time when I'm coloring them, because I've got all their uniform colors and the color for the green stripe and the color for everything on them. you can come in here to old Virgil's head. And now I'm going to select color gamut, selected layer. I'm going to pick there so that I'm just picking Virgil's skin color because I've got that selected. Select that brown and just draw in the edges of those spots. Custom color palettes are a great idea. Oh man, it's it's all about saving time. And if I don't have to try and find that color again or figure out what would make a good color or pick around on the palette and then try them and then find out a little bit too red once it was next to that other color. And all you got to do is just select the color. And then, like, if I was wanting to put it down here at the bottom of my palette, then where's my mouse? I would just right click on that and add color, and now it's added that color in there. And I will do that very specifically because when you click on that last color, I put white at the end of it as just a color for me to replace. When you click on that color and you say, what did I say? Click add color, it will add it right in front of that color. So it'll move over and put Virgil's color there. So when I tend to put in characters' colors, I start from the top down. So like if they've got bright orange hair, I'll put that color orange in and I'll add that. Then I'll add their skin color. Then I'll add their costume colors in order from top down to their feet so that I know when I'm looking at it, okay, that color line is Ultraman. And there's his hair, there's his skin color, there's his cape color, there's the blue of his costume, the red of his costume, the blue of his boots, all the way down. It's all laid out. And that works out really well for me. You might want to organize it in a different way, but that's how I lay them out. And it has worked like gangbusters for me. You can put it in whatever way you want, but that's the way I do it. And when I keep them in order like that, it's easy for me to tell where one ends and the other begins because you're just looking at a bunch of random colors. And that can be kind of tough. But let me see. Like, I don't even know if y'all can see it in here. I wish I could enlarge that more. When it comes down here, I have my skin tones going down to really dark brown, and then I have a red and a gray and another gray. I know that red and gray here is Crimson Streaks colors. I know that gray is Metal Morph because that's the order that I put him in, and he's basically all one gray because he's liquid metal. And then I have this really gray dark brown, this red, a gold, and a white. That dark brown is Steel Wolf's hair. And the red is the red of his costume, the gold accents on his costume, and his white cape. I don't have his skin tone in there because his skin tone is the very first skin tone in my line of skin tones. I put it there so I wouldn't lose it. And then when I made his whole custom thing, I was like, well, I've already got it just 1/8 of an inch away from where this is. I'm not going to add it. But so that's his list of colors. And then this brown and this golden brown and this yellow and the black, those are Midnight Owl's colors. And it goes on from there. And this blue, this gray, this white, those are Killer Whale's colors from Power Company. Because I started doing this when I was working on that book with them. And as you come on down, like there's this blue and this red and this beige. Well, where does it stop? It stops. This white is Ultraman's hair. It starts there and then goes to the beige for his skin, the red and blue for his costume, and works its way on down from there. And that helps me find it is when I'm looking through that sea of colors and okay, that white is his hair, so everything beyond that is another character. And then when I look at those colors for a second, I'm like, oh, I remember what character that was. And then when I get to like Black Orchid's orange hair, I know, okay, everything from here down is Black Orchid's colors, and it helps me find it. Oh, okay. Thank you, Danny. Appreciate that. That's mighty neighborly of you, Danny. Mighty neighborly. I was going to borrow a cup of sugar, and he can sit and explain. Everybody's that stole fish. No. Some people just kick me in the teeth and say, draw, art monkey. Danny's a friendly fella. Sent me a nice little color scheme, so I appreciate it for that. I'm playing the sun, really do. It's mighty nice. That's not the kind of thing that you get very much. And it's something that I've taken to, on the rare occasions that I do character turnaround for somebody. Because most of the time people don't want me to do it. They want a really cheap image, and I'm not a really cheap artist. So I don't tend to be the guy people ask for that very often. But when they do, always make sure to put in a color chart, and with nice clean images of the color for them to pick from, with no shadows or highlights or anything on it, so that when somebody else is coming along behind me and trying to draw this character, they'll have a nice clean image to work from. Because that has been so helpful for me on the few times that the character sheets that I'm working from have that. I just love it. Can't get enough of it. And sometimes it won't be the colors that I'm going to use, because sometimes the person that laid that out might have been a little over enthusiastic with their saturation or something, but it lets me know where I'm starting from if I am going to alter it, or if I do need to change the colors a little bit because of the scene that we're in or whatever. It gives me a nice solid jumping off point. But then some people are like, no, my super chick has to be this specific CMYK color, this specific shade of Pantone yellow that's really bright and hurts your eyes, because that's what I picked, and I don't really know any better about colors, and that's what it has to be. And in those cases, I'm like, okay, that's what you want, that's what I'll give you. I can give you better. You don't want better, I'll give you exactly what you want. Not a mean thing, just to try to keep the customers happy thing. And if the customer doesn't have the eye to be able to understand why that shade of blue looks so crazy on the screen and hurts your eyes, and that might not be the shade of blue that you want to use for your character, then okay, that's what we'll do. I will make suggestions and say, we could do it like this. But they're like, no, it has to be this specific. It has to be the red that makes my eyes itch. Okay, that's the red we'll use. Don't come at me when people are complaining that their eyes are itching. That's all I ask. Move on over here. Gotta run to a meeting, but I'll watch the rest later. Thank you, man. Glad you could tune in for a while. It was nice having you here. Maybe we'll see you again one of these days. All right, now what I'm going to do is I'm going to select the color off my reference layer, which selects all of Virgil. And then I'm going to hold Control Alt, and I'm going to click on the little image in the window over here. You can't see it because my head's a big fat fish head. All right, here we go. I'll hold Control Alt, and then I'm going to click on the little image in the window here, and that's going to deselect everything in that window. So I deselected everywhere that I've already colored in this window. So I just cut out all of the stuff that I already colored, and now I'm just down to what's left. So now it's going to be easy to come in and fill in the rest of Virgil's suit. And I'm just going to use the lasso fill and draw around the whole thing and fill in all of that real quick to get the big parts. And now I'm going to go in and color in the details with that stuff masked off. Katie says some clients don't seem to realize the color of the light affects the color of the character's clothes, skin, hair, and appears to be as well. Absolutely. And I don't even pretend to be on the same kind of tier of understanding color as Katie does, because I just made a mistake. I forgot. I have my paint bucket to a lock, so it keeps going back to the settings that it was at, and I don't want that. Katie has a much better understanding of color than I do, to the nth degree. But we both know that the color of the scene is going to change the color of what's going on in it. And, you know, sometimes it needs to be a light brown to look like blonde hair. Sometimes it needs to be orange to look like blonde hair in this scene. Sometimes it needs to be a green gray to look like blonde hair in this scene. But if you're all like, no, it has to be this Pantone color, it has to be this CMYK color, then, we don't get the freedom to make a better looking image because you don't understand what I'm trying to do here. I'm not knocking them for not understanding, but if you don't understand and you can't trust me to give you the best work I can possibly give you, then we're stuck with what we're stuck with. There's not much I can do about it. I always want to do my best, and I want it to look amazing, and I want you to be wowed with the final product, be so excited. It's the best part of doing this for a living, is how happy and how excited my customers are, the clients are when I'm done with the project, and they're just ecstatic. That's the best feeling in the world. And that is what I want to give everybody. It's not what you want. It's okay. I'll give you what you want. I want to make you happy. I want to give you the colors I want. Sometimes I get to go over the top and make really cool stuff and when I get that, oh man, this is so much cooler than I ever imagined response, that's what I want. I want to know that we took this to a whole nother level working on it together. Some folks have a very specific spot they want to take it to, and anything else isn't their vision. And if that's the way you want it to be, that's the way I want it to be. I might sound like I'm knocking them, and I'm really not trying to. I'm trying to show them nothing but respect. And ultimately, the way you want the book to look is way more important than how I want the book to look. And even if I might not understand why you like this one better, I want it to be the version that you want it to be. Oh, we had the 2 hour mark. Coffee. Bet you money the next time I try and suck on the cup, it's still gonna be empty. For some reason, sir, you keeping my cup filled. I don't know why. Know what I did, sir. Know why she don't keep it filled for me. She's nice. She would. Let's see. I'm pulling up Danny J. Quick's color scheme. Yeah. No. Oh, there it is. That just took a while to load. I think it may be real high resolution. Oh, yeah, that was pretty high resolution. That's why it's taking so long. Stick that up in the corner so we can draw from it. Yes, we want to apply that transformation. Silly old pewter. Don't you know nothing? Don't you know nothing about nothing, silly old pewter? You know your Uncle Fishy's a Southern belle. I took that color and desaturated it just a hair, so it would fit in better with Virgil's more desaturated start point. And dark just a little bit. And I'm gonna make this patch here even darker. That's what I vision. And then we'll take this color, darken and gray it down for the side panel. Oh, that's a little too on purple when that's not dark enough difference. I don't want it to get lost in this gray since they're different colors. And then let's see, skin base. Just a smidge. Let's see. Goggles. Blue. darken up the color a bit because I'm using the same thing up here on his goggles. Oh, I need to go back so I can see if anybody's commenting because I'm just looking at a great big old giant picture of silly old color swatches. Whoops, nope, that's not cool. Put some of this color in here. And then here. And then here. And put some of that color there. Put it up in here. Just because I want to. Just because I like to be difficult. And I'm going to go ahead and darken up the sides of those pouches so it makes it an easier thing for me to select later. You know what? Yeah, I'm going to go ahead and make his gloves that dark color too. And I'm going to make his bits on his sword gold because why not? That's the way I likes it. Yeah, you know, fishing finally starting to feel that back. But used to, I couldn't sit in this chair for an hour without wanting to cry when I got out of it. So the cushion has definitely helped. What color do I want to do for that shiny? Let's try purple gray. Let's see how that works. Same thing here. Get those better. And then I'm going to take that color and I'm going to go a little oranger, a little darker, put some shatters. Shatters is the proper term for more than one shadow. I may not have known that. That's official art stuff there. I'm getting not so subtle hints from the dogs that it's past their dinner time. I'll bet. Yeah, I think I'm fixing to get off of here too because I've got pretty far on this. And it's getting to be my lunchtime. So I'm going to stop here and thank you for hanging out with me. And I'm going to go get some lunch and then I'm going to work on this a little bit more in a more comfortable chair. That's what I'm going to do. So anyway, thank y'all for hanging out. I appreciate it. Glad Danny could hop in for a while. Thank you very much, Katie. I hope you got some help from that info about setting up panels. And if you ever need any more help on it, I'm happy to come online with you for a second and walk you through anything. You know, we can share our screens and see what we're doing and stuff. Because sometimes it's easy to miss just one little thing, one little button that needed to be clicked to make something work right. So I'm happy to help. Thank you for hanging out. Glad y'all could be here. And let's see. Let me get to the video and peace out.
Hello everybody, it is your Uncle Fish back again for School of Fish art stream. J-Man wants a Gatling gun on the end of his tail. Oh my goodness. J-Man says the tail's where you put all the heavy artillery. Yeah. He said he used to have a howitzer on the end of his